25th, 2024, Town Board meeting to order. Ms. Marco, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Dodson?
Present.
Mr. Mastriani?
Present.
Mrs. Galucci?
Present.
Mr. Schlag?
Present.
And Mrs. Collins?
Present.
5 present.
Quorum is present. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mr. Marcello still here? Would you please lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll try to speak up. Does everybody still hear me? I'll do the best I can. Is that better? So again, I will repeat now that it's quiet. Anybody who wants to speak under privilege of the floor or under the public hearings, please sign up. All right? If not, you won't be called upon. All right? And tonight we have 2 public hearings. We'll now open public hearing number 1. The clerk will read.
To recognize the introduction of introductory local law number blank of 2024 to amend Chapter 150 Hawking, Peddling, and Soliciting, Section 150-22 Rules and Regulations, Section J of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam for the purpose of allowing ice cream trucks to operate within the Town of Rotterdam.
Ms. Marco, is there anyone who wishes to speak?
Let me see. No, not on public hearing 1.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
I signed up.
where are you here, Brenda? Oh, I'm sorry, you have 2 things here. Okay. Sorry, Brenda. Brenda Terosian?
And again, I'll tell everybody that you have 4 minutes, and when my hand goes up, you're roughly at 3.5 minutes, and then if you could end your comments.
Brenda, I just have one thing to say. Please say yes to the ice cream guy, please. When I was a kid, we had Mr. Dingaling, and you know, I know you're not going to allow them to be on the busy streets, but on the side streets and play music, because without the music, it's just another truck going up and down. But please allow Mr. Dingaling to be in Rotterdam, please.
Thank you.
That's it for public hearing 1.
Then I'll entertain a motion to either open or close this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close.
Mr. Schlag made a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Mastriani. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes to close the public hearing.
Motion passed. Our next is public hearing number 2. The clerk will read.
To recognize the introduction of introductory local law blank of 2024 to amend Chapter 270 zoning of the town code relating to a change of zone from single-family residential R1 to retail business B1 to create up to an additional 46 parking spaces on a portion of plus or minus 0.47 acres parcel for a restaurant located at 2780 Hamburg Street. The property is known as Arlene Street, tax map number 59.15-1-10.11.
Ms. Marco, is there anybody who wishes to speak?
Mark and Diane Giannetti. Just want to pull the microphone up so we can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Just say your name.
Hi, I'm Mark Giannetti, this is my wife Diane, and we've been at 1106 Roberta Road for the past 38 years. And because I don't know all the details regarding the construction of this parking lot, I'm going to assume that they're planning on putting an exit entrance on Arlene Street, because the proposal talks about Arlene Street. So what I'm going to be talking about is that. We're happy to have a new business there, first of all. Joe's Pizza was there for a million years. And it's been vacant now. That business has been vacant for quite some time. And I'm glad to hear and see that they're doing okay. But based on the proposal, I don't feel that an entrance or an exit on Arlene Street would be a very good idea. It's very busy. Stewart's is right there. It could cause traffic and safety issues on Arlene Street because it's a main entrance into the Colebrook neighborhood, in and out. So Also, while I'm here, also when the business parking lot was completed, they put bright security lights up in the parking lot. Good idea, however, they shine directly into our neighbor's backyard
And bedroom.
and bedroom
This
and
is-
hallway.
This isn't her bedroom. This is 1105 Roberta.
That's 1105 Roberta.
And how I-
Tina's as well.
Blinding.
We're across the
Every
street.
night.
We're across the street, and we can see the light when the leaves fall from the trees. Maybe the light might help. It just shines right through. Also, while I'm here, about the restaurant, which again, I'm happy to have it there. We also would like to propose that the business put up privacy fences behind the restaurant, because they border the properties on Roberta Road. And there's cars coming in and out, there's some noise, not that annoying noise, but there is some. But it would just be more privacy and more sound control. Probably, it should have been done probably ahead of time before they even opened the restaurant. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak?
Jonathan Peliquin?
Hi, Jonathan Pelican. Myself and my wife own one of the lots that abuts right up to that Arlene Street lot. We own 2746 Hamburg. Now, I agree with the gentleman who spoke before me. There is that bright security light, which I was hoping to eventually speak to Joe about, in that existing parking lot. And when I stopped by the planning office or the DPW office to talk to Peter, I ended up talking to Lisa in order to look at the site plans and all that stuff. Now, there is a section that says possible deed overlap, and I was not able to get an accurate understanding of what that was, so I'm not sure if I need to speak to the Planning Commission about that or follow up with one of the Department of Public Works people about that. But there is also another light that's being scheduled to put in if that parking lot does go in. Now, would that light be able to be shaded in such a way that it casts light only on the parking lot, not into my backyard? That would be a great thing because, well, having the bright light shining into your backyard kind of kills being able to use the backyard on a dark night. Other than that, I do think it's a good idea. Having a parking lot for a neighbor is a great thing because it's a quiet, quiet neighbor, and that would be a wonderful addition to our area. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Then I'll entertain a motion to either keep this public hearing open or closed.
So I have one order, I have a couple of questions. Is it ingress and egress on Arlene Street, or is it just one way? Is it going to be pulled
Well, I just want to
in and out?
Yep.
point out we're here for the change of zone request, and a lot of those comments and concerns related to the
Okay.
parking lot curb cuts
Gotcha,
and the
gotcha.
lighting are things that would be addressed
Gotcha.
at the planning commission meeting. So what I would advise both individuals who spoke up is please come, if this passes, please come to any planning commission meetings on the subject so you can speak on the project that way so we can better address those concerns that you have with those items.
Are those on the calendar?
What?
Are those meetings on the calendar?
Yes, they're posted on the town, and their agendas are also posted ahead of time.
To address this comment, though, is it going to be in and out on Arlene, or is it just going to be
The
one
traffic
way?
is both ways. Yes.
All
And
right.
I'm not totally sure that there's going to be an entrance exit to the parking lot on Arlene. I don't know the key details, I'm just going to assume that there is.
We don't know either at this point. The change of zone, what we do when we look at change of zone is a little bit different than what we look at for a planning commission meeting, where we get into those more specific details.
So with that, I think I'm going to make a motion then to close the public hearing.
Okay. Mr. Dodson made a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlaf?
Yes.
Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes to close.
The motion passed. And we'll now move into privilege of the floor. Ms. Marco, is there anyone who wishes to speak?
Nancy Lawton?
My name is Nancy Lawton. As I wrote down, I'm here in regard to Whispering Pines. There are tons of questions that we could ask about Whispering Pines, but I'm hopefully giving you an easy one. The meeting that was in August, I asked about the house numbers and the problem with possibly changing the house numbers. And at that meeting, I can't remember who, but one of the board members said that they received the documents that day that had all the letters from the EMS and the fire department saying the numbers were fine the way they were proposed probably 6 years ago. And that we were in good shape and that they thought everything would be worked out. So I'm just wondering, has that all been worked out and are the numbers going to stay the same? Seriously?
I don't know.
Just so that,
It's not our position now.
just so that you know, we usually leave privilege of the floor for any resident to come and state their concerns,
Okay.
right? Now, if you hang out to the end of the meeting, usually under either liaison reports or miscellaneous, that's why when you see us writing, we're not like ignoring anyone. We're writing down what questions there are, so that hopefully at the end of the meeting, anything that we can answer, we try to answer for you. But we found that if you start going back and forth, then, you know,
Okay, so just a simple yes or no?
Yeah.
You can't do that? Okay. The only other thing, also, in relation to the numbers of the houses, somehow I heard that there might be a new stipulation about the town wanting the house numbers illuminated. So you can add that to the list, that hopefully that's not true, and hopefully the house numbers are staying the way they are, and one less thing, they can be worked out so people can start moving in. Okay, thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Kathy Conboy?
Kathleen Conboy, I live at 120 Fabian Drive. I was quite shocked, I guess, at our last meeting that none of you really seem to have any understanding of this whole Whispering Pine project, which has been going on for 7 years. I know you're all new. You were not the board that approved it. I sat at those meetings when the board approved it. When does it take 7 years? There's things going on here that are just not acceptable. Please, can you get behind us and get behind this project? The town is going to benefit so greatly from this. Taxes alone that are going to be coming in from these new homes, and we'll be selling our homes, so new people will be moving into those homes. We would just like to know when we can expect COs. I know I'm not going to get an answer either, but I don't want you to think we aren't interested anymore, that we somehow are satisfied. We've gotten no answers, and we really, really feel like we deserve some. So my question specifically is, what can you tell us at this time about the status of this project and what needs to be done yet? Because the 3.5 pages that were given out have pretty much been satisfied, and nobody seems to be able to know what's holding things up. So hopefully, folks, let's get this taken care of, please, before we're all dead and buried. Thank you.
Thank you. Amen.
Brandon Sorojan?
Brenda, excuse me, point of order, if I may. Can I, please, Supervisor, can I address the last speaker's comment, just to clarify?
No, we did that at the miscellaneous liaison.
Okay.
You're gonna eat into
Sorry,
Brenda's time to
Brenda.
speak.
No?
I'm not
Go
making
ahead.
up my
Go
time,
ahead.
you just
hasn't started
let him
yet.
answer it. I don't understand why you people have a problem with that. You would not be interrupting our time. Now I am. Brenda, you guys know where I live. I'm going to talk about grants and financing for Water District 5's $34 million infrastructure project underway. Because of the enormous cost to the taxpayers for this project, this board told taxpayers that they would file for grants and subsidies to offset the cost of financing this project. And please understand, Water District 5, we're the largest water district here in Rotterdam. And so let's look at what this board has done thus far. In 2022, Rotterdam applied for a $5 million grant. It was denied because of incomplete application. However, Mrs. Collins falsely stated that the state ran out of money as a reason why we didn't get the grant. In 2023, Rotterdam again applied for a $5 million grant, and that application was denied. So I don't know what's going on, and you guys won't tell us anyway, so. Point 3, last December, the board reported, and I was at this meeting, the board reported that the town received a low-interest subsidized loan from the state's Drinking Water State Revolving Fund that will save taxpayers, that will save the taxpayers of Water District 5 $14 million. This was the same meeting that Mr. Dobson announced that a $4.7 million grant was being done for the sewer district. I don't know the number, I don't care. Molly, Mrs. Collins, I mean, I was at that meeting, man, and you guys were like, I thought Mohannes and Rochelle Mont cheerleaders were here. You were so giddy, so happy that we got this loan. We didn't get it. To this day, we did not get it. It was a lie. How many more lies do the residents hear? You wonder why you guys don't get answers? How many more lies? I caught this board in so many lies over the last 2.5 years. How many more lies do we have to put up with? Water district, I got a family in back of me. They searched for a home for 2 years. They came to Rotterdam because the taxes were low. I spoke with her. This is a family of a husband and a wife and 1 boy. The husband and wife worked. My neighbor told me that she has to get a second job at Hannaford's because the price is out of reach for them. This is 2 people are working. 2 people are working at pretty decent jobs, and they're having problems. Can you imagine what's happening to other people? Especially those that are on a major budget. I remember one of you guys saying, we need to learn how to budget our money. Well, maybe the town needs to. Because I don't know, I mean, where are we getting this money from? I know it's from us. You can't even tell me, you guys can't tell me whether you lie about getting a loan. You're lying about the $5 million grant. You're constantly lying. And I'm here every 2 weeks. So you guys have been lying since day 1.
Very good, hon.
Angelique Bywater.
Kick some ass.
Hi, how are you?
You gotta pull that up. Yeah, there you go.
I just want to make a general comment. My name is Angelique Bywater. I work for CSCA, and I do labor relations for the employees that work for the town of Rotterdam. I just wanted to say that we're here tonight, and the employees are here tonight with our CSCA shirts, so you can see the people behind the work that work for the town. The town of Rotterdam employees, we just want to let you know, we do work around the clock, 24/7. We're proud of the work we do, and we want to continue to keep this town running, and we are also proud of the community that we live in. Many of these folks outside of work are continuing to contribute to this community in a meaningful way, helping neighbors, working as coaches, volunteering in churches and nonprofits. These people are parents, siblings, brothers, sisters, and taxpayers and voters. And we just want to point out that our town employees are an investment in the town's future, and in the workforce. And just wanted to make a statement and thank those employees that work for the town.
I just have to read one email that was sent to me. It's pretty long, so I asked Molly to please let me know when the 4 minutes are up. It's from Carol Renna of 766 Old Duanesburg Road. This message is in regards to a proposed zoning change of 774 Duanesburg Road and 778 Duanesburg Road. In July, I received a mail plate placard that would be a change of zone request for these addresses, and a hearing would take place during the August 14th, 2024 Town Board meeting. I spoke about my concerns at that hearing, but to date I am unclear on when or how this change of zoning will be reviewed and when a decision is expected. I would like to make the following request supported by a following list of my pending concerns and comments. An electronic copy of the change of zone request application materials is 1, 2, a description of the status of the traffic impact study, TIS, and an electronic copy of TIS materials if complete. Number 3, confirmation that the Shellmont School District has reviewed the application for a change of zoning. Number 4, confirmation that the New York State DOT Region 1 traffic engineer is aware of the change of zoning, proposed development, and expected transportation impacts. Number 5, when and how the draft seeker form may be available for review. Number 6, the date when the Planning Commission recommended the zoning change so residents may review the minutes or decision notes. Number 7, expected date for when the town board will decide upon the zoning change. I understand our town processes many land use changes, and I fully respect the need to balance business development and residential development. Nevertheless, this particular land use change would be highly unusual and warrants special attention. Any nearby resident can tell you that this road, Duanesburg Road, which is also New York State Route 7, has exceptionally high traffic during the morning and evening rush hours. It is especially congested during school season since it is the only road that serves Shellmont High School and Middle School for all areas east. New York State DOT's own traffic counts, link included, show that the annual average daily traffic for this segment is over 12,000 vehicles per day, and that the value is growing every year. At least 14% of the traffic is truck traffic, and trucks are ever present at this part of the road. This section of Route 7 is the only route between the interstate system and 2 of Rotterdam's key freight facilities. So the existing road is already strained, but the proposed land use and site development would be particularly troublesome for several reasons. Understand that even though the land use changes for Duanesburg Road, the only existing driveway for this property is Old Duanesburg Road, which is a short, dead-end street just next to the bridge over Interstate 90. The subject property is right at the edge of where Old Duanesburg Road meets Duanesburg Road, at a highly steep angle. The property is right at the end of grade bottom of the hill for Route 7 bridge over I-90. There are no dedicated turn lanes into Old Duanesburg Road, which again is the true access point for this property. There is a wide paved median that is often used illegally as a two-way left turn lane, but officially there is no dedicated space for vehicles to turn into or out of Old Duanesburg Road. So already to start, it can be extremely difficult, sometimes dangerous, simply to get in and out of Old Duanesburg Road, the street in which I live. You have limited ability to see traffic. They have limited ability to stop given the hill from the bridge. This land use conversion also will change a mostly undeveloped parcel of over 14 acres to a 22,000 retail store. Tractor Supply is not a small mom and pop store. There will be significant heavy increases to traffic in the immediate vicinity. Fortunately, there are lots of Tractor Supply stores and similar retail stores, so that there are data on the expected trip rates for customer, workers, and deliveries. I'm going to keep going because I'm never going to finish this in 4 minutes. It's been difficult for me to follow the process of this land and use change. So some of the key things I am asking for are digital copies of the key documents and how these documents will be for public review. The mail placard I received had instructions on viewing a physical copy of the land use application. 4 minutes? Okay, I cannot emphasize enough, I'll read the last statement. I cannot emphasize enough that I support business, and I even hope for more business in Rotterdam. I know we need to be a community that looks towards the future and continues to appeal to both residents and businesses to support. With this development in this highly problematic location, will Rotterdam be a nicer place to live and work? Carol Retta, homeowner at 766 Old Duanesburg Road, and a copy of this will go to the Planning Commission on her request.
and the entirety of it will be recorded in the official minutes.
You got it. And that's it.
Done? Okay. And we'll move on to our first resolution. Our first resolution is Resolution 362 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
Accepting town board meeting minutes.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci. On the question? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
I'll abstain because I was not at
Oh,
that meeting.
Okay, sorry. I'm only abstaining. So 4 yes, 1 abstain.
Okay, motion, on the resolution passes. Resolution 363 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To schedule a special meeting of the town board.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Mastriani. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution 360, oh, I'm sorry, resolution passes. Resolution 364 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To enact local law number 17 of 2024 to amend section 266-46 entitled Schedule 6, Stop Intersections of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam for the addition of stop signs at the Al Constantino Drive and Duff Banbury Court intersections.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Schwab. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Our next resolution is Resolution 365 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To enact local law number 18 of 2024 to amend section 266-46 entitled Schedule 6, Stop Intersections of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam for the addition of a stop sign at Laura Street and Guilderland Avenue.
Any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Schwab. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 366 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To enact local law number 19 of 2024 to amend chapter 150 hawking, peddling, and soliciting, section 150-22 rules and regulations, section J of the Code of the Town of Rotterdam for the purpose of allowing ice cream trucks to operate within the Town of Rotterdam.
Is there any discussion? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Schlag. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Mastriani. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 367 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To authorize the purchase of 1 pickup truck for the water plant.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Galucci. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 368 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To accept and award bid for senior center parking lot improvements.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Schlag. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dodson. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 369 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To negotiate and execute an agreement with New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion? I'll make the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Dodson. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 370 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To declare lead agency for seeker review on a change of zone from multifamily residential R3 to general business B2 located at 676 Moriville Road.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I heard Ron. Seconded by Councilmember Schwab. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 371 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To call for a public hearing on the proposed introductory local law blank of 2024 to amend Chapter 270 zoning of the town code relating to a change of zone request on plus or minus 16.19 acres of a plus or minus 65.8 acre parcel from multifamily residential R3 to general business B2 located at 676 Mariville Road.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Mastriani. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 372 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To recognize the introduction of introductory local law blank of 2024 to amend and extend local law number 8 of 2023 and local law number 5 of 2024 and schedule a public hearing thereon.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second. Seconded by Mr. Schlag.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there, I'm sorry, on the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes, this is to extend the
Moratorium.
battery energy storage system moratorium.
Yep.
Yeah, the governor has a working group right now. We're waiting on recommendations from them, and the Energy Committee is continuing to work out its version of what energy code, battery energy storage system code should be, but we don't have much interest in it right now, or there isn't much interest in it, but we have to wait until we get some recommendations how to deal with fires that could burn in these facilities for long periods of time, that could drain our water system, that could tax our volunteer fire department. So it's prudent we continue to extend this moratorium. My vote is yes.
Mr. Dodson, you did say yes, correct?
I did.
Okay, Mr. Mastriani said yes. Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
The resolution passes.
Oh, no.
Not comment on it. Resolution 373 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To recognize the introduction of introductory local law blank of 2024 to amend and extend local law number 9 of 2023 and local law number 6 of 2024 and schedule a public hearing thereon.
Okay, is there any discussion? Joe, do you understand?
This is a wind moratorium. We definitely don't have any interest in, there hasn't been much interest in wind turbines in Rotterdam, but the Energy Committee would like to put together a wind code package that protects the town in the event that, you know, there are large-scale wind projects that come in, but we're extending it until the Energy Committee feels, we're asking to extend it until the Energy Committee feels it has a draft that we can propose.
It's a 6-month
Mhm.
Yes.
And they're working on battery first, but we'll be waiting for the governor's feedback on that regardless as well. But we'll be fully prepared to, have good code. It just takes a while to put it all together.
Is there any other discussion? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mrs. Galucci. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Mastriani. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani? Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 374 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To declare equipment obsolete.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Mastriani. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Galucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schlag?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 275 of the year 2024, the clerk will read.
To authorize the release of retainage to Consulting Engineering, Inc.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Mastriani. On the question, Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Calucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 376 of the year 2024. Clerk will read.
A resolution making certain determinations in relation to and approving the establishment of extension number 17 condos at Helderberg Meadows Extension to the Town of Rotterdam Sewer District number 2 in the Town of Rotterdam, Schenectady County, New York, pursuant to Article 12A of the Town Law.
Is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Calucci. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Calucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. Excuse me, Resolution 377 of the year 2024. The clerk will read.
To authorize the supervisor to execute and sign a memorandum of agreement with the Rotterdam Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, Inc., DBA.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Dodson. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs. Calucci. On the question, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Dodson?
Yes.
Mr. Mastriani?
Yes.
Mrs. Calucci?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
And Mrs. Collins?
Yes.
5 yes.
Resolution passes. And that ends our resolutions for this evening. Do any of the board members have anything they wish to say under liaison?
I have a few items under economic development. On September 24th, the Chamber Community Business Forum met, and so I attended that. It's a little bit of cross-pollination, and basically there are some towns that are doing things very well. So I'm spending some time with them to just figure out how they're proceeding with that. So that's working out really great. The Association of Towns annual meeting was scheduled. It's February 16th to the 18th. I believe Jack and I are both going to attend that. Economic development for Chamber on the Feet, or Chamber Feet on the Street. We're going to do another one in October, and basically what that is we visit a lot of the local businesses and we just get some input on what's working and not working for them, and see how we can help them. Also under economic development, Discover Schenectady, they have monthly meetings that we can participate in. That has never been done before, so we're starting to do that, and we will get great benefit from it. From the Energy Department, or the Energy Committee, on today and tomorrow, I'm attending a conference that will just give us a little bit more insight into what the state's doing with renewable energy. And not just the state, in general, the federal government. So that's been interesting. So I'll bring that information back to the Energy Committee, and we'll talk over any new information, and we'll build it into whatever code we have, or the process, any processes that we're going to follow. The next advisory committee meeting is October 10th. These advisory committees are all volunteers throughout our community, so it's open. If anybody's interested in it and you want to come listen or just want a seat at the table, we welcome everyone. And then in November, based on the fact that batteries starting to be a big deal in New York State, we are in conjunction with the firemen going to have Homeland Security training on lithium battery. So more information will follow, but I think that's, on our Energy Committee, we have a couple of firemen. So we're so blessed because they bring information back, and they are actually the ones who set up this training. And it's needed, because as we move forward with battery in whatever capacity, whether we want to or whether we're forced to, it's important that we're prepared for it. And I believe that's it.
Do any of the other board members have anything to say under liaison? Okay, does anybody have anything to say under miscellaneous?
Yes, Madam Supervisor, I'd like to address Ms. Conboy's comments in terms of the checklist. What the process is, once that list is signed off on by the outside contracted town designated engineer, Labella, then the town can grant COs. We can't grant the CO until that's signed off on. So there isn't anything that the town can do. We're waiting on things to get done, but the town doesn't have the mechanism to do it itself. So that is essentially the process, and to address your question. And also, well, go ahead.
The only thing that I wanted to say is, I don't remember anything about illuminated numbers, like you'd have to have a light on them. Reflective numbers, that was from the fire chief in District 2 that will be responding to Whispering Pines. And because the numbers do not run the way normal streets run, where they're consecutive and even on one side, out on the other, as far as I know, what the fire chief, the police, and I'm not sure about the EMS, I can't remember when I had the conversation with them. You know, when you go around the bend, what they want is a sign on either side that says houses 1 through 30 here, 100 to 110 here, whatever, you know what I mean. And they were hoping, and this is all through the town, I had the fire chief tell me that even in Colonial Manor, they're going up and down the street for a house fire, and they couldn't find any numbers. So what I had heard from the fire chief was, all the houses have them in the same place, wherever you folks decide you want them, whether it's next to the front door, above your garage, whatever, and that they be light reflective. I didn't hear anything about having to have a light on it. Well, yeah, it's, you know, and that's not a problem, but, you know, and that's what I had heard from the fire chief and the police, and I'm assuming any first responder that needed to come to your house, you want to make sure that you can easily see the numbers. And since they don't run consecutive, they just wanted signs on either side as you go around the loop, so that they knew what numbers were in that loop up into the back part.
Okay, so does that mean then that the numbers are gonna stay the way
As
they
far
are?
as I know, yes.
But you are gonna require that the numbers are reflective?
Yes, and
then
that, I
the two
mean, that's,
signs.
yeah, and in the same location
Well,
on everybody's
they've
house.
already put up some, but they
Yes.
obviously have to be changed to be reflective, but they're all in the same.
Yeah, and it was really
Reflective
just the
numbers
first,
and two signs.
it was just the first responders' response, so that in case in the middle of the night they need to get to somebody, when they shine their floodlight or whatever, they can see the house and stop and give the assistance that's needed.
Okay.
Has the builder been informed?
As far, that I can't honestly say, I don't know.
He is asked. The question if the numbers are staying the same. 'Cause he has
The
to
numbers are staying the
Set
same.
up the post office. You're saying that to me, but has the builder been informed?
I don't know
Who's
whether
in
it's.
charge of telling the
Well, it
builder?
would go through probably the building department. It's not the town board, it's the DPW and the planning
The
commission.
builder would put the numbers on the buildings, the town wouldn't put them on there. But to be
No,
clear,
I'm
that this
saying
is.
that's not what she said.
No, I know, but to be clear, is there still time? If you guys wanted to change your numbers to do it?
That's not what she's saying.
No, but what I'm saying is this is not holding up the commencement of the project. In theory, if you wanted to change your numbers to be sequential.
We don't want to.
They don't want to change their numbers.
Numbers the way they are, right?
No, they want their numbers to stay the same, they just wanted to know if the numbers were fixed, if the builder has been informed, and whether we were requiring illumination. I understand you might have misspoke, but I'm just trying to summarize.
If the numbers stay the same and the builder is informed, then he can put the post office boxes in. Otherwise, he can't.
But whether he's been informed through the building department or the county department of health or whatever, I cannot speak to that fact. That's not generally a function that this board engages in. That's a different department within the town that would handle that type of communication.
So that's the building department?
Generally, the permitting authority is the one that communicates that, or the TDEs, depending on who's responsible for that particular task.
And so the building department would know the two new requirements of the reflective and the signs?
Yes, that would be communicated through TDEs, planning, and building, and the various county agencies that get involved with that, with county emergency health and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to address the comments relative to grants for water. So yes, indeed, the town did apply for a WE grant in 2022. That grant we did not receive. It's a very competitive process. In 2023, we actually applied for grants. The grant that we applied for in 2023, because you can't apply for both water and sewer at the same time as we applied for sewer. And as was acknowledged tonight, we did indeed receive a WIA grant for our wastewater treatment plant upgrade of $4.7 million. So we did not apply for a WIA grant for water, we applied for sewer, and we did get that grant. We, in 2024, and as acknowledged at board meetings at Rotterdam Junction, we applied for a WIA grant for our water districts 3 and 4, which are in Rotterdam Junction. We chose not to do a WIA grant for water district number 5. For water district number 5, there was a comment that we did not receive funding for a subsidy, and I just want to clarify again. We started a wastewater project long before this board came in the previous administration. They also received funding for their project through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund, EFC. We have not closed on that funding yet. This funding, as was foiled by the town board, included a laundry list of stuff that the state government requests for the town to sign a finance agreement. That information was provided in a floral request. It's a long process. You do not get awarded a WIA grant or subsidized financing, and they show up here like it's the lottery and hand the town a check. It requires extensive amount of paperwork, seeker, all sorts of different checkoffs that have to be done. The town is still in that process, not uncommon for our wastewater treatment plant, and it's also in that process for equivalency funding. So until we provide all the documentation that the finance agencies are looking for, we don't close on our financing. And that's what we're after right now, is we're trying to close on our financing. So where does our project stand? The town moved full speed ahead. The town has a wastewater treatment plant that's currently designed. That treatment plant right now is in for EFC and New York State DEC approval. We'll continue to go through that approval process at the same time. We're working on our funding and our checklist there. The water project also is in full design. We currently have a submission into the Department of Health for our well number 6 and raising the grade to prepare for our production well and our building down there. And our consulting engineer that's hired for the job has done an extensive amount of survey in addition to geotechnical work, approvals associated with seeker, wetlands, bats, you name it, that process is in the works right now. So from the town standpoint, we conveyed to the public, we are on the premise again that indeed we're going to receive a $34 million equivalency funding subsidized from EFC, as we believe we'll get our $4.7 million WIA grant for our wastewater treatment plant. Projections that we give the public are based on receiving that financing. It's once again, it is on the town. We have to follow through all the letters that come in as missing items and stuff that the funding agency is looking for. We, on a weekly, monthly basis, continue to respond to that. Very common. It's not just Rotterdam. It's every community that has that type of funding has to go through that process. And we will continue to do that for both of these projects. And I'll leave it at that.
I'd like to say another thing. I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
You brought this up. I brought it
You're out
up.
of order. You are out of order.
No. I talked about Water District 5, not about all the other districts.
You're out of order until you're done.
Okay, and you guys are out of order. You guys lied to us, and you don't want to hear the truth. I'm out of order. Well, the whole fucking town board is.
And the one other thing that I'd like to say tonight is, we have representatives from every department here. We have parks, highway, different parts of the police, different parts of DPW, assessor's office, and the water department. And I take your concerns very seriously. You know that we'll be having another meeting with Danny and Angelique on Friday, and we look forward to continuing negotiations. So your presence here has been noted, and we appreciate you coming out tonight to show your support for your union. or at least I do, I think for
Could you
everybody.
please tell me how I am out of order when you allowed other residents to talk to
Does
them?
anybody else have anything else?
No, I'm asking a question.
This concludes our business for tonight. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Johnson. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Mrs.